Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope all of you are doing okay. Today, our group will present phonological rules. Next slide, please. Our group consists from three members. The first one is Nadia Amalia Putri, Nur Aini Alifia Putri Ramadhani, and Gina Sakila. Today, we are going to talk about definition of phonological rules, types, and example of phonological rules. The first material will be presented by me. Phonological rules is a speech process which happens naturally that can be understood by both speakers and listeners, and how speech sounds from patterns is made. John Goldsmith defines phonological rules as mapping between two different levels of sounds representation. In this case, the abstract or underlying level and the surface level. Bruce Hayes described them as generalization about the different ways a sound can be pronounced in different environments. So, phonological rules describe how a speaker goes from the abstract representation stored in their brain to the actual sound they articulate when they speak. The function of phonological rules is to provide the phonetic information necessary for the pronunciation of utterance. The next one is we are going to talk about types of phonological rules that we presented by Nadia Amalia Putri and Nur Aini Alifia. The time is yours.
The first type of phonological rule is assimilation. Assimilation is when one sound is influenced and changed by a neighboring sound. Driven, 2004, 119 states that assimilation is a process whereby one sound causes an adjacent sound to be more similar to it. Assimilation happens because the tongue cannot always move quickly enough to get from one position to another in order to articulate the next sound, or because the mouth is too busy to anticipate the following sound. Assimilation patterns manifest three subtypes. The first subtype is phonetic, free variation or contextual assimilation. The change affects a certain segment by selecting a certain variant of that segment. For example, in triumph and nymph is rendered it's labiodental nasal instead of bilabial. So it's pronounced very similarly to the bilabial, except instead of the lips touching each other, the lower lip touches the upper tip. The second is phonemic assimilation. It's often referred to as a result in the naturalization of two phonemes. For example, z and s in newspaper. And the last subtype is morphological or morphophonemic assimilation, which affects a whole morpheme. It usually decides the morpheme variant or allomorph according to morphophonemic rule. For example, the distribution of S suffix show three allomorphs. After voiceless consonants are stops, roots, phillips, and its. After voiced segments are goes, voice, toms, and his. This after sibilant consonants are ridges, bridges, gems, and joys. From the point of distribution or chains, assimilation can be progressive or regressive. When the change involves the preceding sound, the assimilation is regressive. For example, the sound n, it becomes n under the influence of a labial consonant that follows, such as 10 minutes becomes 10 minutes. And progressive assimilation is when the change involves a following sound. For example, the morpheme of the plural becomes z when preceded by a voiced consonant. For example, bag plus s becomes bigs, bigs.
The second type is dissimilation. Dissimilation refers to the process by which one sound becomes different from a neighboring sound. For example, the word pilgrim derives ultimately from the Latin peregrinus. The L sound results from dissimilation of the first R under the influence of the second R. But assimilation and dissimilation are commonly subsumed under the principle of ease of articulation. The third type is deletion. Annihilation or deletion is the omission or removal of one or more sounds, such as a vowel, a consonant, or a vowel syllable in a word or phrase. The example: most American English speakers do not pronounce the "th" in handbag, and some speakers of the English delete the final or on the words like dinner. So deletion is a process by which a sound present in the phonemic form is removed from the phonetic form in certain environment. The fourth type is insertion. Insertion is extra sound is added between two others. It occurs, for example, in the English plural rule, when the plural morpheme z is added to bus, bus, buzz would be unpronounceable, so a short vowel, the schwa and z. There are two types of insertion. The first is prosthesis, refers to the insertion of a segment at the beginning. The example is the word Snoopy. At the beginning, edit a sound. So the Snoopy. The second is apenthesis, refers to the insertion inside a word, class plus plural. So the pronoun is classes. It is sound in the end. Then the last type is metathesis. Metathesis is aspect of the English language. The word metathesis comes from the Greek word meaning to transfer transpose, or known as a permutation. The metathesis occurs when two sound or syllable switch place in a word. This happens all the time in spoken language. For example, nuclear pronounced as nuclear. Then is integral pronounced as integral. Then the last is asterisk pronounced as asterisk.
So these are some resources that we use to make our presentation. That's from our group. Thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.